Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Nexthink webinar. This is Ashraf Saleh. I am Professional Service Manager for the Middle East region. Today presentation is going to talk about VDI, how Nexthink can help in VDI transformation projects, what we can do for these projects, and of course I will be starting introducing Nexthink and what is Nexthink it's about, and how it's gonna help you in such projects or any transformation project. So first of all, in this webinar, I need to inform you that you will be in a mute mode. If you have any question, please you can just type it in the chat, and I will be answering all the questions at the end of this webinar. So allow me to start now. Okay, so today's agenda, first we're going to talk about Nexthink, introduction about Nexthink, then we'll talk about the VDI, what is the VDI, and what are the VDI challenges, how Nexthink can help in the VDI approach, and then we will talk about two sections of Nexthink and VDI module, the VDI readiness index and the VDI capacity planning. First of all, this is a traditional corporate infrastructure, which is composed of data center on the right side, where we have our servers, then we have the network, and we have the end users on the left side. Usually, why do we build or we invest in data center side? Why do we are investing and put all of these monies to build this data center and the network, the devices? So the purpose of that is to deliver a service to the end user. So the end user is our customer who needs a service. So we are delivering this service for him. What if the end user were unable to work on his service? He's unable to work. So we have a downtime. We have a business interruption. We are losing money. The server side and the network side are stable and controlled. There is nothing happening there in the server side or the network side without being tested or being monitored. We cannot do any change on the servers or in the network without testing it in test environment, validate the changes, then we can raise a change request and apply the changes there. But for the end user, we never know what is going on there. His environment is very changeable. Everything is going to be in the end user device is being changed most frequently. The end user installing applications, having his privileges, his administrator facing application hanging, application crashing, his operating system is crashed, and we never know about the changes or the problems that happens on the end user device unless the end user raise the phone, contact the help desk team and telling them that I am facing an issue. Even though 80% of security threats is caused by this end user, 50% of performance issues are caused by the end user, and 70% of support budgets are to the end user. But how much does the IT team know about these services? Nothing. Without the complaints that comes from the end user, we can see nothing. IT organizations are facing many new challenges, and in many cases, we don't have control of the service that the end user or the business are using. The services might be up and running. I mean, the servers are working fine. The monitoring tool of the servers telling us that the servers are working fine. There is no issues there. But the end user are unable to launch the service. They are complaining. I am unable to open my Outlook. I am unable to open my ERP solution, my internet banking, core banking applications. We are unable to launch it. But once we start digging, we're going to the server team and we're going to network team, and everybody's telling us everything is working fine. The server is up and running, but the end user is unable to reach to that service. So this means I am facing a big issue. Also, from the security perspective, any IT organization are facing extremely threats, internal threats or external threats. So environments are vastly more complex, and malware is vastly more sophisticated nowadays. So we need help in finding such attacks. We need to understand what is the attack type. The zero-day attacks, nobody can detect it except to understand the behavior of the application. How does it work? So we need a solution that can detect such attacks or understand the application behavior, understand the executable behavior, and what does it do. So the IT department here, they cannot know anything. They don't understand what's going on there, and they cannot see the attacks, cannot see anything, the security threats that attacking their environment. So how does this being different from the IT analytics, from end user IT analytics? We have the IT operation and assessment for the server side, for the network side. Also, we have the monitoring tools that can monitor the servers, can monitor the networks. And we have the configuration management tools that can do configuration for the server, that can do configuration for the networks, and can do configuration for the end users. Same thing regarding the protection. We have different tools that can do protection for the end user, for the servers, and for the network. But regarding the ITOA and the monitoring for the end user itself, there is nothing can tell us what's going on in the end user. And here comes the role of Nexthink. Nexthink can cover the gap here. We can complete the I2OA visibility, so we can have full visibility of what is going on the whole environment, for the whole infrastructure, from the server side, the network side, and Nexthink here completes the image. So Nexthink can do the ITOA for the end user and can also provide full information about the end user desktop and what's going on there. Now that was my small introduction about the Nexthink, and let's see how Nexthink can help in VDI. First of all, let's understand some terms here. What is virtual desktop and what is virtual desktop infrastructure? What is the difference between them? Virtual desktops, or sometimes they call it as desktop virtualization, is the software technology that separates the desktop environment and its associated softwares from the physical client device, and it used to access it. Virtual desktop infrastructure, that is the VDI, is the physical structure that consists of hardware and software systems to provide and support desktop virtualization. So the VDI is the mean here to reach the virtualization. So first of all, let's talk about here the desktop options. What do we have in desktop options? Usually, we have the traditional and well-managed desktops. Then we have the remote desktop services, and we have the VDI. What is the difference between these three types? The well-managed desktops, we have the hardware. On top of it, we have the operating system runs there that consumes the hardware, and on top of the operating system, we have the applications. Sometimes we might have a virtualized application that can launch a different operating system on top of our running operating system, like VMware or something like this can run on any desktop and run different operating system on top of that. Second, what is the benefits here? We have a great user experience because we have dedicated hardware for that user, dedicated operating system for that user. So we have a great end user experience, a great performance, but it is expensive to upgrade. And of course, we all know that the hardware living time, it's around to 3 years. So after the 3 years, we need to renew the desktop, do upgrade or replace that machines. Remote desktops, we have the hardware, same thing. We have the operating system and we have the applications there. The difference here is the operating system is server operating system, and the users are used to connect to this environment using remote desktop software, right? Like the remote desktop from Microsoft, or Citrix ICA client, or VMware remote connection. So the users are connected to this server, and they can launch the published application or the virtualized applications or the virtualized desktop there. Here we have a standard lockdown environment. The server is hardened, the server is secured, and there is only published application the user needs to access and do his tasks there. We have high number of users per server. Sometimes we can reach up to 200 users per hardware, per server that can access simultaneously to these server resources and launches the required applications there. But some applications don't work on server operating system, and these applications require end-user operating system like Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, and does not work on server operating systems. So here comes the VDI. In VDI environment, we have the hardware. On top of it, we have our hypervisor. The hypervisor is responsible for controlling the hardware and sending the commands to this hardware from the end-user devices. So on top of that hypervisor, we have the operating systems. Example, we have Windows 7. We can have various types of operating system. It can vary from Windows XP to Windows 7 to Windows 8 or Windows 10 in the future. And each one of them is a dedicated machine for certain users. So we have the users accessing their dedicated machines and work on it. So we have a flexible centralized desktop here in this environment. Everything inside our data center, it is centralized, easy to manage there. Similar to managed desktop, each user he has his own dedicated operating system and he can work on it, and this machine is dedicated for him with its resources. Now, the disadvantage here, we have lower number of users per server. In the virtual, in the remote desktop type of the desktops, as I said before, we can have up to 200 users connected to a hardware, to a single server. But in VDI, the number here drops maybe to 20 devices, maybe to 30 devices, maybe less. It depends on the resources that we assign to that virtual desktop. So, VDI challenges. Building VDI environment is not that simple. We are now investing in data center rather than on the end user devices, because everything we are building inside our data center, not on the end user device. And such investment is very expensive. So we need to have good planning for such transformation, starting with collecting real and correct information about my infrastructure that will be helping me in my assessment. And this information should not be based on assumption. This is the biggest challenge actually that we have, of having assumptions in regarding collecting this information that we are going to use in our assessment. We don't need to guess information from the customer telling me that I don't know how many operating systems we have. We might have these operating systems running on the end user devices, or how many applications. So we should know the exact amount of the bandwidth requirements, the resources calculations, storage sizing and design, application inventory, understand end user profiling and requirements, desktop virtualization strategy. We want to know how we're going to start, with which machines we need to start, and how we're going to deploy, the budget allocations for such investment. So it is all about managing expectations. We need to understand the complexity. How much do I have to manage? End user experience. After migrating these users to VDI, are they going to be happy or satisfied, or they're going to complain and destroy my project? So if we start, for example, with the wrong group of users, and these users, for example, having huge resources in their desktops, and we migrated them to VDI, they will have less resources, they will not be administrator in their desktops, and they will start to make issues for me. They will start to complain, they will start to fail this project in order to go back to their physical desktop. So it is very important for us to know where to start, and to know that if the users are going to have issues when we are migrating them to VDI. So also from the cost, how much am I going to save if I'm going to migrate to VDI? Is this migration going to have a good ROI for me in the future or no? Is it beneficial for me to do this project or no? This information we need to understand it, and we need to collect it in a proper way. So from Gartner published paper in 2012 regarding or under the subject 7 stages to a successful hosted virtual desktop rollout, the recommendation was application portfolio analysis is one of the most important areas to focus on during the data gathering process. Then Understanding end-user behavior and work style is critical to determine proper design of the hosted virtual desktop environment. It is important to develop baseline for desktop performance to determine whether the HVD will meet user expectations or not. So how we can do that? With Nexthink, we can help in the VDI different phases. We can start with the assessment phase, where we can help in assess the current applications, map the actual usage of each application and each executable file for the resources, and we can know the end user experience impact. How much resources we're going to assign to this user, and if we give him this amount of resources, is going to be enough or not enough. Then in the design phase, we can classify this usage for each application or for each user. Depends. We can do it in different ways. Then we can fine-tune the profiles after creating or decide what profiles we're going to create, how many profiles we can to create. We can fine-tune it to say, okay, these applications are required or these applications are not required. These resources are required for such applications or not based on actual data. So we are sitting on the end user devices, collecting the data and monitor the end user devices for 30 days. And based on that, we can get the output for our assessment, the actual usage for each application on each device. Then we can help in the plan infrastructure capacity. Nexthink can tell you, if you want to migrate these devices that I have been monitoring them for 30 days, you will need this amount of resources. We can choose a single device and we can tell Nexthink, okay, if I'm going to virtualize this desktop, single desktop, how many resources do I need? Or if I want to migrate this group of devices that belongs to this department, how much resources do I need in order to virtualize it? And Nexthink can tell you the exact amount of resources that you need. Then, during the implementation phase, we can validate the rollout and we can monitor and manage the deployment. So we can know which devices are still using their physical desktops, which users are using their physical desktops, or which users are really being migrated to VDI and they are working on a virtual applications or virtual desktops. So Nexthink can validate this one and help us in the implementation and give us nice dashboards and nice reports on how is my migration progress is going on. After that, after the deployment and migrating all the users, we can help in the management of these virtual desktops. So Nexthink can provide performance dashboards that can tell us about the issues that the end user are facing on their virtual desktops or virtual application. If there is any latency, if there is anything there in this virtual environment, Nexthink can provide very nice dashboards and summarize dashboards for high management, for the administrator, in order to understand how is the performance there. Also for the security compliance departments, they need to understand what is going on there, who's following our standards. Even though these machines are controlled and it's a base images, but everywhere we're having exceptions. Everywhere we know that sometimes a user knows an administrator and can ask him for a privilege, an admin privilege on his device, or to install applications, or to remove applications, to install patches or remove patches. Or let's say an image is facing issues in its antivirus, especially if it is dedicated machine, dedicated virtual desktop. In this case, Nexthink can monitor, can tell us which are the machines are not updated from the antivirus perspective, or if any devices is not complying with my standards and my policy in this company. So Nexthink can provide security, compliance, and the standard dashboards. Also, if you're having an SLA with certain, or you are outsourcing your department, your support department to different companies, and you have SLA agreement with them, so you can track everything. You can see if this third party is following your SLAs, is committed to his SLAs, everything being solved quickly, users are not facing issues, the number of tickets is being reduced, or number of the tickets is being increased. All these things you can follow it and you can track it from our SLA and KPI dashboards. So Nexthink module. Nexthink module is divided into two sections. We have the VDI readiness assessment which is shows the best devices that, to start with the migration with. So we can tell us these desktops are the best devices to start our migration with. So Nexthink can tell you that. And which devices that we are expecting issues. If you're migrating them to VDI, you will face issues there. And of course, we will tell you the reason why. Then we have the second section, which is the VDI capacity planning. The VDI capacity planning shows the resources required to virtualize the selected devices. As I said before, we can do the assessment for one device or multiple devices or the whole infrastructure itself if I want to migrate everybody. So Nexthink can tell me in the capacity planning how much resources do I need to virtualize this device to VDI based on the 30 days monitoring and the actual usage of the resources of that device. So let's go there in details. The VDI readiness index, what is it? Based on aggregation of various metrics, the VDI readiness index assesses the feasibility of VDI transformation from technical visibility and business values. So we have different metrics, and these metrics are grouped into three categories: technical feasibility, end user experience, and saving opportunities. Based on these metrics, Nexthink aggregates all this information and give us a metric telling us which are the best devices to start with the migration from physical to virtual, and which are the next devices we can start with, and which are the least ones and we need to keep them at the end. So after doing this analysis, Nexthink can do the capacity planning for us, which is the second section. So Nexthink can tell us how much resources do I need to migrate the selected group of devices, single device as I said before, or all devices. So we can know number of cores, the amount of RAM required, the bandwidth required from the server side and from the end user side. What is the difference between them here? The end user, if he's virtualized to VDI, his communications between the end user and the server side, it is called the client side, which is the ICA traffic, if it is Citrix virtualization, or if it is Microsoft, it is the remote desktop. So what is the amount of each user will consume on the network? And also regarding the printing, if he's printing anything or if he's transferring files, these data also consume bandwidth, and Nexthink can see it and sense it and then calculate it. Then we have the server side. The server side, since the desktop now inside the data center, all its communication with other servers, from the VDI, from the hypervisor itself, to the Exchange server, to ERP solution, to other servers in the same data center. This data, we name it as server-side bandwidth. So we can also sense it and we can calculate it and telling you how much amount of bandwidth you need to have in your environment. Also regarding the storage, we can see the size of the hard disks on each devices and how much consumed on each device, how much capacity the end user is using in his physical drives, and according to that we can tell you how much storage you need for that. Also, IOPS. Nexthink can sense the input and the read and write on the hard disk. So how much IOPS you need for each device, Nexthink can tell you for that. It's very important when you choose your storage to understand and to know how much IOPS you need, especially in the boot storms. You don't want to have any latency in your virtualized environment. The devices are booting slowly, operations are very slow, so we need to understand all of that, and Nexthink can sense it and tell you the exact amount of IOPS that you need in the planning phases. This is my small presentation, so we can jump in now for the demo, and we can go back after that for the questions if you have any questions. So VDI module, this is our VDI module. We have different tools. We have two tools actually to access Nexthink. The first tool is called Nexthink Finder. And the Nexthink Finder is used by the administrators and Nexthink users who are interacting with Nexthink system in order to do investigations, to drill down in results, to see details information. The second part of Nexthink, or the second admin tool in Nexthink, is the portal, which is I'm opening now in front of you. The portal contains dashboards and modules that provide high-level information for the management, or as we can see here, it will provide the VDI assessment for us. So the VDI module, as I said before, it is composed of two sections. The first section is the VDI readiness assessment, which is telling me what are the best devices that I can start migrating to VDI with having successful implementation without having any issues. So I can choose from the beginning. As you can see the screen here, the first section of the screen, it is asking me which devices do you want me to do the assessment for? Do you want to do the assessment for the whole environment, or you want me to do the assessment for single departments, or even for single devices? In this setup that I have in my demo here, we have distributed the users based on locations, based on different locations, like the States, Europe, and Middle East, for example. And I can choose to do the assessment, for example, only for Europe, and immediately Nexthink will do the assessment for me now and give me the results. So this is a virtual machine running on my laptop, so it will take some time, sorry for that. So here we have the results here. It can tell me, and I'm doing the assessment again, 729 machines, for example, and it can tell me what are the machines that I need to start the migration with. So the readiness index, the readiness index here, it is a matrix from 0 to 9, and if the results are near to 10, which means that it is higher and it is more successful in regarding implementation or regarding of migration. So here it is telling me that the average of devices, this is my average, it is telling me these devices, which is the 245 devices, from here and above are the best machines to start with your migration. So these two machines are the best. Then we have 231 devices also are less best from that, but they are good to start with the migration. And we have the 245 machines are very good machines to start the migration with. The ones are beneath the average here, 241, and these 10 machines, you need to keep them at the end. Don't start migration with them. What is the reason of not starting with such machines? These machines are stable machines. They have high resources machines. Users are having admin privilege on these machines. There are no problems on it. The operating system is running without any issues. Their applications are not hanging. So if I migrate these devices to VDI, I'm going to provide the end user with less resources. I'm going to put him inside a small jail, you know. He cannot utilize his machine the way he was using his physical machine. So he's going to start to issue, to start to complain and start to fail my project. So the readiness index, based, as I said, on different views. We have the technical view and we have the business values. It can tell us that from technical point of view, what if going to migrate a users, for example, this group of users, and here I have the list of the users. I can see the list of the users, and I can see here their scores in different modes and different categories. Sorry. So it can tell me that if you start migrating the users, this group of users, which is Europe, their technical point of view, the users is going, are they going to feel the difference? I mean, we can see that the users going to be almost satisfied. So the users, if I migrated them to VDI, we are not going to see big difference from the performance side. Also from the saving, are we going to save a lot if I'm going to migrate these devices? No, it's not too much going to save, because their resource, these machines, for example, they're having high end user devices, and if you migrate them to VDI, you are not saving a lot. But if we choose, for example, an environment that has all desktops, or the operating systems are not stable, or the applications are not stable, then of course you're going to have, the technical view will be different, the user is going to be much happier, and also the business value is going to be higher, because you're going to save a lot of money rather than to renew the devices, purchasing new devices. No, you are doing investment in your data center, and the average machine life cycle there is going to be higher, because the server side, you don't invest, you don't renew the servers in less than 6 to 7 years. There's no need for you to replace the servers there for 6 to 7 years. So the VDI, if you migrate these devices to VDI, so you're going to have in the long run high ROI. So the VDI readiness index, as I said, it is based on different metrics, and these metrics are grouped into 3 categories. We have the technical feasibility, user experience, and saving opportunities, and each one of them is doing the calculations based on different metrics. For example, for the technical feasibility, which means that how easy for me to migrate these devices to VDI. And it's, as I said, based on different values or different metrics, from the server resources, network resources, and VDI limitations. And we can see, for example, under the server resources, we are checking the memory, the CPU, the storage, the I/O on the hard disk, the usage intensity of the machine, if it is being used or not. Same thing regarding the network resources. We can see the network-sided traffic, sorry, the client-sided traffic and the server-sided traffic, and also regarding the VDI limitations. We can see that if the user, for example, having multiple monitors, if he's using a laptop or a desktop, if he has any attached peripherals, operating system, or application exceptions, all these things, it is going to tell us the value of the metric, and the readiness index will calculate all of these and give us the results there. Same thing from the end user experience. We can do the calculation based on different things regarding the flexibility or the performance. If the user, for example, we can see the resolution that he's using in his desktop, and if you migrate him to VDI, so in order to keep this resolution, how it's going to be, or if the user is having attached peripherals like USB printers, or he has personal softwares or personal configuration, or if the users are roaming users, means that the device is being used by different machines, the device is being used by different users, not only a single user, like in call centers. Also, we can see the personal storage, if he has any personal data or not. Now, all of these things determines the VDI readiness index. Based on this information, we can calculate and know if these users are good to migrate or not. So we can know which user to start with. Same thing regarding the saving opportunities. We're looking at the hardware and software savings. Also, we are looking for the operational cost. All these metrics are compose the readiness index here. So after knowing that, we can see now which are the best users to start our migration with. So if we choose to start with these users, we can choose these users and ask Nexthink to do the migration or to do the assessment or the capacity planning for these devices to start with, or to start our capacity planning. So if we go to the capacity planning section, in the capacity planning, we can see the usage, hourly usage in the last 30 days, how it was. And based on that, Nexthink can estimate the actual number of resources that you need. Okay, we can see here how much CPU cores you need, how much memory you need, how much bandwidth from the server side or from the end user side, and how much storage you need to migrate this user. So we can choose here. For example, this assessment is done for everybody. So we can do it only for Europe devices, and we can see how much resources we need. So it is different from one side to another side. So this is the Nexthink VDI module. As I said, it is separated into two sections, the readiness index and the capacity planning. So let's see if you have any questions here. Okay, I think we have some questions. So we have a question here regarding how long does it take to deploy Nexthink. Okay, Nexthink deployment is very minimal. If I want to deploy Nexthink in any environment and to put it in best practice, we can bring it up and running in only 2 days. So it depends, of course, on different factors regarding the deployment, but if everything went fine without any issues, we can bring the implementation or bring the environment up and running in only 2 days. We have another question here. What size? One second, sorry for that. What size of customer can benefit from Nexthink? Okay. Nexthink solution is a scalable solution. It can vary from a couple of hundred devices up to 100,000 of devices. Nexthink is a scalable solution. Whatever the size of the customer, we can accommodate it in Nexthink. So it depends on the design here. And if for example, the customer started in phases, he can start with number of users, and if you want to expand, we can add more server. So we can expand horizontally here. We can add more servers in order to accommodate more devices or more users. So usually a single server can accommodate up to 10,000 users without having without doing the assessment for the web and the cloud traffic. If I want to enable all the modules, all the features of Nexthink, this means the number of users per server will drop to 8,000 users. We have another question here. Is it possible to do proof of concept? Yes, of course. We can do proof of concepts. We can come to your environments. We can build the setup there for a couple of weeks, and we can see the benefits of Nexthink in your environment as a full solution, not only for a VDI assessment. VDI assessment, it's a small part of Nexthink, but as a Nexthink itself, it's a full solution. It's end-user IT analytics solution. So we can show you the capabilities of Nexthink. We can provide you with reports of our findings. How can Nexthink help you in your environment? So you can see your environment as never before. Other question here, do Nexthink and Exceed Galvo provide a training? Yes, of course. Nexthink and our partner Exceed, here our gold partner Exceed, we can provide the trainings. Our partner Exceed are capable partner, of course, and they are certified in doing deployments of Nexthink, and they can deliver the training. Of course, their engineers and their consultants are capable to do that. And of course, if they need any help, we are here to support them. So yes, we can do that, of course. So anything, okay. So is there anything there, any other questions? Let me see. No, there is no more questions. So guys, thank you very much for your time and for attending. And if you have any questions or anything, I will put here my contact details. So these are my contact details. If you have any questions or any queries regarding VDI or regarding Nexthink in general, you are most welcome to contact me anytime or to contact our partner Exceed. We are here, guys, to support you. So thank you very much for your time and for attending this small webinar. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in our projects.